Hello and welcome back to GouFlections, where I'm going to be uploading every Monday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. This is episode 31 of GouFlections, where I share my lessons, learnings, and reflections from my own personal struggles in the hopes and for the sole purpose of showing you that you are not alone, and for also showing you proof and giving you hope that you can get through whatever you're going through. So in honor of the first episode on YouTube, I would like to share my own personal journey into this over the past few years. You see, I came to Canada as an international student back in 2013 in a country that is 15 hours away from home, similar to the situation of many other students. I was instilled with the mentality of being a good straight A student, achieving high marks and being a great student and avoiding unnecessary risk. Find a good job, settle down, save money, and start a family, that kind of life. So university was kind of perfect for me. You see, the courses were set for me. The deadlines and assignments and projects and final exams were all scheduled, and I was set on this path, and all I just had to do was study. I excelled and graduated within the top 5 to 10% of my class of about over 100 students and graduated on the Dean's Honors list. This is perfect until I graduate. And for the first couple of years from 2018 to 2020, I lived my life, having a stable job and having disposable income. I explored as much as I can. I went on new adventures and experiences and met new people, and I absolutely loved every bit of life. But then COVID hit on 2020, where we were all forced to stay home, be socially isolated, and have rules and regulations forced down our throats. As it was a very hard time for all of us, it was a scary time, being worried about your well-being and your friends and your family's well-being at the same time, and dealing with all this uncertainty. Slowly, a year after I was hit with the death of my grandfather, and that was the first death of a loved one that I've ever experienced in my life. And a week before, I was hit with a major speeding ticket, and that was my first, where I had to spend a lot of time in courts and whatnot. So obviously there was quite a hard time for me, due to several reasons that I'll get into in future episodes. But essentially the symptoms were that I have lost my focus and my direction in life. I had no idea where I was going at the end of the day. I had taken my fill of experiences and adventure and fun and going out with friends, but COVID put that to a slow halt, a sudden halt actually. And that put me in a situation where I fell into bad habits. And what are those bad habits? Those are eating junk food whenever and however much I would like, watching a lot of Netflix and wasting time, spending hours every day on social media, sleeping late, waking up late, socially isolating, not going out with friends, not being in nature, not exercising, slowly starting gaining weight, and found that my mood and my energy has been slowly degrading over time. But it happened so slow that I didn't even realize it. Fast forward to 2022, after a couple of years of hardships, I started experiencing some symptoms I've never experienced before, some of which would wake me up from a peaceful night's sleep in full-blown panic, with my heart racing, fully convinced that I am about to die. I even had called an ambulance maybe twice or 3 times in my life, just convinced this was my final breath on this world. And I would go to doctors and they would diagnose me and they would check me and tell me that you're physically okay, until one of them said, "Hey, you might have anxiety." To which I paused and laughed it off and like, anxiety? Me? Come on. That is something I've never experienced my whole life. And my first logical conclusion was that it was obviously physical. What is anxiety? I can't be dealing with anxiety. I've never dealt with it in my life. I'm 25 years old, 26 years old. So I went to more and more doctors and got more and more tests, and I would get the same answer over and over again. And even one of the doctors paused and said, "Omar, have you considered medication? Have you considered seeing a counselor or seeking a diagnosis for depression or taking antidepressants?" And at that moment, it was a shock. It was a fear that I was in denial about. You see, coming from my culture and my background, it's not fairly recognized and spoken about. Mental illness and anxiety and all those kinds of struggles that so many of us face. So I was in denial for years of my life, and I dealt with physical symptoms that manifested because I was ignoring all those mental symptoms over the years. And that is when I decided to take things very seriously, because it has gotten to a point where I couldn't sleep and I couldn't function at my full-time job. I couldn't interact with friends with my usual energetic self. I found the meaning of life pointless. I lost feeling in the satisfactions and simple joys of life. I wasn't feeling happy or sad. I was feeling empty most of the time. I just felt always tired and unmotivated, and just constantly drowning myself in distractions through movies or social media or going out or just eating junk food or sleeping in. I would sleep 13 hours a day, and it took over my life to the point that I have started losing connection with my friends. I started gaining a lot of weight. I stopped progressing in any area of my life. My career was a big struggle for me. Waking up in the morning became a huge struggle for me, just functioning in my daily life. And that's when I decided to take a very hard look at what is going in my life. So I'll pause here for this episode, just giving you a quick recap of the past few years of my life. And the reason I'm sharing this again is to show you that it is normal, and so many of us go through it. And maybe you're seeing me for the first time, but for my friends that have known me for years, for most people that have told me that I love life and I'm energetic and I'm always so happy, and they don't know how I do it and I'm so confident, the reality is quite the opposite. And so, like so many people, I just wouldn't show it. And I realized that that is the situation and the case for so many of you and so many of us. And this is why I'm openly sharing, to show you you are not alone, and we will work through this together, and you will overcome it.